In this training, we're going to cover the user management section. So in the customer section, there's the option to search for customers, create customers, and a few other options. So the search for customers page, this is just a basic search. If you wanted to see all customers in the system, your total number is at the top. You can also sort by route names on this page. So this will just research and sort by your route names. You can also sort by status. If you had specific customers you wanted to search for, maybe for the users that registered in the last month, you can search from the advanced search page. There's also the option to search by memberships, pickup locations, just a bunch of different options on this page. The create customer profile page, this is just where you would create a customer profile if they didn't want to register from the front end. Most of the time you won't be creating these from the back end, but if there's an elderly person who isn't able to register on the front end, you can help them out from the back end as well. On the customer profile fields page, this allows you to add additional sections to your registration page. So maybe you want to collect some different information, like I agree to the terms and conditions. And then we would make this a checkbox field, can be viewed by customers and empty by default, just means the checkbox won't be selected by default. And then you would click add. You can also link this to your terms and conditions page. So if you would like that set up, just let us know and we can link that for you. So then to make this section active, you would just mark this as on the left as active. See at the top, this is active and then required for the customers. And then if this is a required field, you check mark this as required. Just make sure to click save on this section. And then to add this to the registration flow, you would go down to the bottom and then add it maybe to your second step. So you would search for terms. I agree to the terms and conditions, click update. And then we can actually view this from the front end by going to this URL. And then if we click register and select just random information for the first step. And then the second step, you'll now see the conditions that we've added in here. So this was one of the new settings that was added. And then here's the second option that was added. So these ones show on step 2, so we're good there. So the next section is import customers, export customers. The first time that we import your customers, we'll do that on our side, but if you need to import another group of customers, you can also do that from this page. Over on the left-hand side, you'll see field names, and then on the right-hand side, it tells you maybe a little bit more information, like login for your column name on your import sheet is also referenced as username. So if you don't know exactly what it's called, just focus on the left-hand side. Export customers, this just gives you everybody in the system. And also the extended report, this includes maybe some additional fields that you created on the customer profile fields page. And then one sheet that puts everybody on one sheet rather than dividing them up into different tabs based on routes. Export customer emails, maybe you wanted a list of all of your memberships, their email addresses, you can get that from this section. Edit, create membership levels. Sometimes you want to focus in on some groups for offering discounts or things like that. You can set up your memberships here. Usually by default, when customers register, they're in a membership called not member. So if there is a case where you need them to be changed into a different membership, you would have to do that manually. Customer notes, this is a page that allows you to search maybe some notes that were added to a route or some type of notes. So this is where you can kind of search for those notes on this section. So the next section is going to be very similar to the customer section. For admins, drivers, and suppliers, they're very similar. Searching for admins, again, it's just the same thing as the customer search. It just shows which admins you have in the system. The next part is creating admin profiles. If you're creating an additional super admins have the right to see everything in the system. You also want to make sure to check mark these boxes as well. This just gives them access to everything on the dashboard for the admin site. So if we click on this section, this is your customer dashboard. So that's what those those check marks relate to in the system. So if we go back to admins, if you have different membership levels for your admins, let's say you have a summer intern, you can add a new membership level for that admin access. So now that the summer intern has been added to the membership level, you can go into access control and then maybe change their access permissions. So if you click edit, you can change their behavior from default to all disabled by default or all enabled by default. So if you check mark all disabled by default, you're selecting the actions that should be allowed in this section. So maybe for the summer intern, you only want them to be able to see, search for customers, things like that. So that's how you edit their access control. Again, drivers and suppliers are going to be very similar. When you go to the Create Driver Profile page, you'll also see a new URL in this section. If you wanted your drivers to be able to log in, you can give them this login URL. If you don't want them to log in, our system does not email them the username and password by default. So you just don't have to supply their username and password to them if you don't want them to log in. Same thing for suppliers. So when you're on the Create Supplier Profile page, there's a section for the URL with the supplier's URL login. There's also the option for them to have access to the account. If this is not checkmarked by default, it doesn't let them log in. But again, you don't have to supply them with the username and password if you don't want them to log in. That's pretty much the whole user management section. If you have any questions on how to do anything specifically, we can cover that in the QA session.